Good morning. My name's Matt Coleman. I'm the founder of Magnify World. Our company specializes in augmented reality and virtual reality productions, and we are a champion of the industry. And today we have an interview, very special guest. We're looking forward to hearing what Fernando Rabelo says from Magnopus. He's currently based in Los Angeles, and he is head of virtual production. And good morning. How are you, Fernando?
Hi, Matt. How are you? Good morning. As Matt said, my name is Fernando Rabelo. I am a virtual production technical director at Magnopus, and I have been involved in the latest and most creative parts of technology that you have seen in the industry lately, which is what we're going to discuss a little bit in the virtual production part of it with Matt.
So Fernando, can you tell us exactly what your role entails being the technical director?
Yes, for sure. So my job as a technical director at Magnopus is being on stage, helping to bridge the gap in between the creatives and the technical work. So as an example, a director can come to the stage, not know anything about technology, and we will make sure that he has the tools and the work that he needs to shoot. So he can walk there, never being in virtual reality, never being connected to virtual camera, and we'll make sure, like, using tools that he is familiar with. We create tools that will allow him to drive a dolly, for example. We'll give tools which allow him to go to virtual scouting, which is a similar thing to a location scouting, but it's all virtually using VR headsets, which we'll also talk a little bit more about of this.
Excellent. So tell us about the company. On the website, it says here an experience company, and it actually focuses on art and technology, which is the introduction to your organization. What's the meaning behind that, and what's a bit of the history with your company in Hollywood?
Yeah, Magnopus is a very interesting company that it's indeed focusing VR and AR experiences. However, our founders and the CEO and president, they come from a VFX background. They have worked in great movies like Hugo, Star Trek, and so on and so forth. And what happened there is that they did such a great job in the past that even though they tried to verge to a different part of entertainment, which is AR and VR experiences, they still get calls to this day from people asking for help in their creative, technical difficulties to make movies. So that's where we got the opportunity to work in The Lion King, for example, creating the full virtual production setup to shoot that movie, which was all shot here in LA, not in Africa, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the most photorealism movies of probably all time, that the press, were very kind to the production there. Amazing graphics. I mean, how long was that in the making? What was the time process around that for you?
So the time process was around 3 years that took to make The Lion King. And the main thing is that the changes were happening all the time. Even though we had like shots rendered, we would still make changes on them, meaning they would still go back to set and we still shoot on top of a rendered shot. So those are like the advantages that the virtual production allow you to do, that you don't have to have a final lock to a shot, but instead, if you still see, oh, this could be better, this could make, we could make a difference in here, you still can go back to stage because we are still shooting like the other shots left, and you still finish to the way the director wants it to be.
How many different locations are you working when you're in virtual production, for a project like that? Is it multiple offices where you're putting on your headsets and you're directing different shots there that you basically can shoot in real time, I would imagine, right?
That's correct. That's the fun thing about virtual production, because you can be in one environment, which that's what we had in The Lion King. However, newer productions allow us to be working remotely, especially with the problems that we're having right now with the COVID-19. Companies are shooting remotely. Everyone is in their own bedroom. Sometimes people are in their pajamas and you can see them like I see you now. And it's just like everyone is working real time. I can make changes on my machine, and the director can make changes on his machine, and he will show like to everyone else in the crew which is connected to that session. And that's one way that's like filmmaking is moving towards, because people can work wherever they are in the world, and they don't necessarily need to be traveling as much as people do nowadays, or used to do.
Yeah, and that's a big positive in today's environment, when you've got all these regulations coming down from different governments at levels, and the guilds and unions and everything. I would imagine it's probably a good way forward, right, for the industry. But can you take us back to where virtual production kind of came from? You know, obviously coming from the green screen innovation, which was what, 50 or 60 years ago potentially, but and where it is today. Can you give us a bit of an historical look in that window, and where and how far it's come?
Yes, definitely. Virtual production is a new term. However, it comes from VFX. It's all, of course, the technology that we have nowadays allow us to make an increment change in the way of shooting that did not allow us in the past. However, people were very creative, and like you could see the beginning of virtual production where people were doing crazy mock-ups to have virtual cameras somehow connected through huge cables and connected to computers, which were like in the early days. Of course, you mentioned green screens. That was all part of virtual production as well, because it can be used, of course, to connect to the virtual production. It's pretty much like the connection in between the virtual world and the real world, where you can see both of those environments merging. So if you do, for example, multicam, which was something largely used in Avatar, where you could see the virtual characters connecting with the real characters, that's where the difference in virtual production, because what that brings to you, if you can see that thing, you don't necessarily need to be shooting only on green screen, but you can see exactly what's happening or close to the final picture. And that allows you to make decisions on the fly. So you are on stage and you see that, I don't know, that dinosaur is too close to the character, or it's too big for the character. So make it smaller, or if it's too small, just make it bigger, because you don't necessarily need to send the files you shoot like blindly on a green screen. You don't have to send them to the VFX pipeline, and then a week later you get the result and, oh, that's not what I want, let's reshoot. So a lot of that like saves time and money, of course. And that brings us to what virtual production is going today. So, and yeah, films like Avatar, and then most recently Jungle Book, which was also part of a shot by the same team that shot The Lion King, were also big changes in the way virtual productions are made. The difference here, that coming a little bit closer to The Lion King from Jungle Book, is that we had a lot of, the team had a lot of virtual camera work in the Jungle Book. However, what differs from The Lion King is the fact that virtual reality popped in. Virtual reality was a very small player in the Jungle Book, because those headsets, they were expensive and they were not available for everyone. So fast forward to today, or The Lion King, those VR headsets, they are sold in bulk, and you can buy them very inexpensively, and you can have them at your own home. And what we did was we connected all those VR headsets that people wanted to try, and we allowed the filmmakers to go into the locations, to go to the environments, and be close to the location where the thing is being shot. instead of only being looking at someone's over the shoulder of someone, of a VFX artist, instead of just being looking and asking them, hey, move this thing over here, move this thing over there. So nowadays they can do that themselves.
Is that multiple locations that they're shooting, obviously, you're talking about anyway, right? So they can be in their home in LA, basically, right?
Correct.
And direct, right? So
yeah, that's correct. They can be in any location they want. And that's again, one of the most beneficial parts of virtual production, because one, it can be done remotely, and two, you have a full immersion of the experience, meaning of the sets that you are shooting on. Let's say you're gonna shoot a lion that's just coming like behind the rocks and approaches and sees another lion. Before, again, you had to be looking behind someone's shoulders and like, I don't know if those lions are too close to each other, because you don't have much of perspective, and you can ask them to change. However, now you can go into VR yourself. You use flying tools that you just pull a trigger and you can go around the scene in any angle you want to see. You see a three-dimensional picture of the animals and the environments, and you can make smarter and faster decisions. Okay, now let's move them this closer because that's what I want it to be. Besides that, you can grab a virtual camera. You can have a view screen over there, and you can get super close to the animals, and you can get the camera angles you want to. And once you get that camera angle, you can just press another button and you create a camera right there. And that's the camera you're gonna shoot your movie with.
It's amazing. I mean, how far back has this been in trial, do you think, and in real production? And I'd like to ask, what headset, what's your favorite headset? Is there a particular brand that the movie industry or your company uses?
Yeah, I think it goes far back. Again, if you're talking about virtual, if you are talking about virtual reality, the start point that I know of for film was done in the Jungle Book, where there was a scene where the buffaloes were coming towards Mowgli, and the actor had to jump away from the buffaloes, and he was not getting it because he was not seeing anything. He was just like an actor wearing a green suit, and he was trying to jump around, and the director would see the scene on his monitor, and there was like a multi-cam, so he would see the actor and he would see the buffaloes, but the actor wouldn't see anything. Yeah. So what they did was they put the actor on a VR headset where he could see the buffaloes coming at him, and he nailed it. Every time a buffalo would come, he would just get out of the way, and he got the perfect movements because it was a real-time feedback. So he was acting upon the buffaloes coming at him, not like blindly as it used to be.
That's a good point, actually, because this virtual production really done well can enhance the actor's performance, of course, because, you know, whether they did that one example within the headset, but when you're talking, and we're going to get into LED walls as well and photorealistic environments and gaming engines in a minute, but that, you know, gives you and the actor, producer, directors, the whole crew, the feel like that this is real, right? And you don't have to build sets, you know, potentially you can save money in the film business by not building elaborate, you know, sets, particularly if you're in space. I would imagine, you know, you can do all sorts of stuff. I mean, a lot of people are saying this is great for Star Trek-y type of, you know, but I'm going, well, you know, the project that you did with Unreal with the motorcycle was, it was in the desert, right? So, you know, it could be any environment, really.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's another great advantage of virtual production. You can shoot in any environment you want to, and you can make it work in a split of a second. You can swap in between those sets, just like, it's just the time of like turning down the engine, swapping a scene and bringing that up. It takes like two minutes, like in the hardest scenes that we have. we had. So for the Epic Games mock-up, what we did was the real-time in-camera VFX.
And how long ago was this, by the way? Because there's been a lot of press around there.
Yeah, that was in 2019. That was a presentation Epic created for SIGGRAPH 2019, and they invited Magnopus to be part of it, which it was a really fun experience. And it was so, it was such an amazing thing to be so close to a lot of like geniuses and creating such an incredible experience. So for that one, and the great advantages is that, again, instead of like having the VR headsets, which we also had in that set, but you have the LED walls, which is a completely new game changer also for the industry, where you are immersed to the set yourself, and you actually feel like nothing happens around you. It's like you are not in a stage. You feel like, even though there are just screens like surrounding you, you feel like, oh wait, is this the real thing? Because your brain plays tricks on you and you start to believe throughout the day.
Yeah. That's virtual reality as well, right?
Exactly, in a way, yes, it is. Yeah. And so yeah, you can change sets as quick as you want. And also that's a good advantage because you also save money and time on that. Let's say you wanted to shoot on Times Square, which is probably very expensive to close the whole area and for a few weeks and so on and so forth. So what you can do is you get the main shots that you want, that you have to see the whole street. And then you send your team to do a 3D capture of the environment on the same day of shooting. And then you go back to a virtual stage, which is a virtual production stage, and with the LED walls, and you can map all Times Square on those walls. And then you do the mediums and the close-up shots in there with your talent, not having to travel again to New York, or not having to be exposed, or having all the expenses that like shooting outside and in a very crowded place like that brings to you.
Yeah, so let's keep on talking about the motorcycle example at the event. One particular fascinating point, I think, is the lighting options that you have, right? Because it's really like shooting outside when you're inside. And can you tell us a little bit around technically how that works and how you can manipulate that, particularly from your standpoint, being a technical director, and how that affects the lighting and how you use the Unreal gaming engine to power that?
Oh yes, for sure. That's like one of the coolest things you can ever see on a stage, because everyone can get spoiled because you always get the perfect shot, meaning the light is always perfect. If you like the golden hour, you can have that 24/7. So outside, of course, you're shooting, you have like a window of 50 minutes until it goes away. Here, you can have it all the time, which is great for filmmakers which like to explore their creativity, and they come here and they do all these beautiful shots in a way that like they couldn't do it before. And what happens is the LED walls nowadays, they are getting better by the minute, which allows us to have like really close to real light, like sunlight close to it. Of course, we're not there yet. There are limitations, but depending on the material you used, you can get really close to it. And of course, to answer your question, there are some tools that we use connected to Unreal Engine, of course, which has done a stupendous work into virtual production and keeps on doing it. Which allows people, the director of photography, to have a iPad on his hand where he is playing like, I don't want to say that, but it's like he's playing God, where he can turn the sun on and off whenever he wants. It's just like little touch screen knobs, and some things that you have on your phone, you just like rotate a knob and it becomes nighttime. You can rotate another knob, you can rotate the whole environment, because why not? The mountains that you want to shoot are like on that side, not on this one, and you can just rotate that. Another thing, you can tint and you can make it lighter as you want. you can bring some actually lights on the LED walls, which is like almost the matrix, lights inside lights. So you have a scene around you, and then you have a 3D light, and then it's gonna be just in one part of the screen, it's gonna be a white spot, and that's gonna light you like a regular light on stage would do. And that's
what about reflections? Because that was one of the most amazing things I saw with the actor with his sunglasses on a motorbike, right? And you could see the reflections floating all the way down his jacket onto the petrol engine of the motorbike of the particular scene that I looked at. And I remember that because that was a focus of when you shot that video. Can you tell us about reflections? Because that's incredible, really, isn't it? When you're in this environment.
Yes, you got that right. So that's one of the main things that differs LED walls from green screen, because you have two things. You have we have the reflections, which are fantastic, and of course, you get the reflections because you are seeing the objects right there on the LED walls. For example, if there's a tree going in front of the sun, and if you are moving, for example, and there are trees moving, you're gonna get the reflection for free. It's right there. So there's no comp work needed after the fact. And of course, there's no spills from the green masks that you probably have. I mean, a lot of people have had hard time taking them off. And also you get shadows, which is like really good shadows because the light source is exactly on that point. And the light source is coming from the scene. You can also, I mean, there are tricks that you can add some extra lights. One is the one I just mentioned. You can add external lights, which can be LED lights as well. But also you can just use the light source from the scene, which can be the sun, or if it's a night scene, some street lights or so. You're gonna get the reflections exactly from that point. So there's no matching after the fact. Make the note, where is that light coming from, so you can match in post-production. There's no such a thing happening in an LED environment, in an LED wall environment. So, and the result is just seamless. The character is there in front of an environment, and you get the final shot right there. So that's beautiful. Like, and also to add to that, the fact that the game engines are just like becoming more and more realistic. We are getting real-time rendering to a point that no one has seen before. And that's what makes the magic, because if you have a shot in the background of you that you cannot tell if it's real or not, and there's nothing that takes you off, such as spills or a bad reflection, you just believe that that's real when you're watching the movie.
So it's brilliant, and that's got to save time and save money by shooting faster, and it gives everybody pure creativity, really. I think it's fantastic. I just had a question going back to the controller of changing the light on the walls. Is that an application that your company has, or is it within the app of the Unreal Engine, or do you develop that yourself, or how do filmmakers access that part of the controller, or is that, just how does that work?
So there are two tools that are very big in virtual production. One is the virtual reality tools, which are tools that you use once you go in VR. And you have a palette of tools using your controllers. You can select those tools, and you can also change lights. You can change the environment, you can grab things, you can fly, you can make marks on the environment, on the virtual environment. And that gets shown on the LED walls because it's a multi-session, everything is connected. So everyone is working in the same environment. Some of those tools were created by Magnopus, and that's what we were showing in the SIGGRAPH event, and in collaboration with Unreal. And the tools that I spoke before on the iPad, that's a tool created by each separate production. Unreal is releasing some of the tools that we use in that SIGGRAPH presentation. However, pretty much like what we wanted to do when we go to a virtual production is adequate to a certain director. We don't want it to create just one single thing that everyone has to use it or has to adjust to it. That's a good thing about here, because we wanted to adjust to the director, whatever he likes. Does he like those to turn the sun around, or does he always want to keep it? So it's an open source that Unreal has allowed to. You can create, you can customize as you want, but it's open to the public. That's a good thing about it.
And you guys you've done probably up to 100 projects over the last number of years. What about augmented reality? Have you focused more on VR or AR, or they call it XR and mixed reality now, of course, with the Magic Leap kind of devices, right? And I noticed they have a new CEO actually yesterday announced, Magic Leap. So with a drive into enterprise instead of consumer. But have you used the Magic Leap and any of, and many had done augmented reality sort of productions, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I see the Magic Leap nowadays for augmented reality as we saw the VR headsets as Oculus and Vive while shooting the Jungle Book. It's still in early stages. We have done some tests on the Magic Leap where you could see the characters passing by, and it's amazing. You have like the touch, you have the fingers that you can make some little actions, you can make them happen. But this is all in an early stage for virtual production, if you will. The idea is exactly that. You can, because like to wear still bulky VR headset for an actor to wear that and act it out and move around as the example I gave in the Jungle Book, it's very difficult, because how are you gonna, if you wanna see the actor's face, how are you gonna remove that? You have to do that in post again. So we are going back to what we did, which is removing the backgrounds when we are using green screen. But here, like the AR solutions that are appearing, they are becoming so small that it might be a solution. Whenever it gets to a point that it's just a glass, like an eyeglass, similar to the one you're using, then you have AR capabilities. That's going to allow us to really thrive and like show what it's possible with AR in virtual production, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to claim these are the new Apple glasses actually, but they're not.
Yes.
But look, I was speaking to a company this week, and they're making lens technology for smart glasses of the future, right? They see that as a big focus for them. And there's, smart glasses, I'm sure, are going to make an impact. It's a matter of when.
Yes.
But it was great to see that Apple has is championing that side of the market, because it's going to make a whole lot of things easier. And with the bulky headsets and all that. Have you got a favorite headset? Do you like Vive, Oculus, or any of the others? Or I'm sure you've used Google Cardboard.
Yes, yeah, I've used them all, and of course they are getting smaller and smaller and like lighter, which is a good thing. We have used heavily for the Lion King production. We have in the Epic event. We have used heavily the Vive headsets. We had Oculus headsets on stage for different setups. Mm-hmm. So I would say it varies from what we are doing. So I wouldn't say I have a preference for any of those.
You're using all of them really in testing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So they have different functionalities, and the controllers are also different ways. So I would say it varies from each workflow we are doing. But my main point is you are wearing those things all day long. You take them off and you wear them for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then you take them off. Sometimes you wear them for 15 minutes, sure. But the lighter they get and the more comfortable they get, the better it will be for us to be using them on stage and like making sure, of course, we have to make sure the quality is good, because it's clear and you can see everything in a great quality. Of course, that's a huge point, because everyone wants to get in there and get like the most of the experience. So the closest it is to reality, the best of the headset you can have.
And look, I just want to also touch on the Mandalorian project as well. That seems to be the leader in the media of this, they're calling it new tech. It's really, what I know and read is it's a collaboration of, firstly, of directors, because I don't think there's probably been another TV series recently that's had 6 directors, right? With John leading the charge, right? Yeah. And you know, they obviously are using Epic and the Unreal Engine and working with different parties like yourselves. I mean, what can you tell us about that particular project? Season 1's been done and it's fantastic. Season 2's, I believe, currently in production, which you probably can't talk about. But what is so unique, and why did that hit the media so big?
I think one of the main things about this show is, of course, there's a huge fan base of Star Wars, and they haven't had a season yet where they can keep following a show like weekly and getting excited about it and like getting fulfilled with what they get in the end of the week. However, you brought a good point, which is different directors. So each episode shows you a little bit what those directors are and what they bring in their baggage. So I think that helped, of course, the fact that like you are not solidified in only one vision, but you're gonna make sure that like different types of people who are watching the show are happy. There's an episode that you might don't like so much, but then you go to the next one, you get super thrilled about it. And that was a funny thing to see on stage. You see all those directors working together when they were like early stages, just prepping, and they were not fully working in their episode. They would just be there hanging around, and they would talk to each other, which was a good thing. Hey, what are you gonna do on that show, on that part of the show? Like, can you tell me? And then they try to maintain like some sort of solidified environment where it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna make whatever I want and then you take from there. It's not just passing the baton. Like they didn't care. They were really focused on making a unified project, and that shows when you watch the show. That's like really clear on screen. The technology was also big on that, because that technology allowed directors, all of them, to immerse themselves again in a way that hasn't been done before. So there were constantly location scouting, which was exactly, the directors can get together with Jon Favreau. They can get together in the same room, and they would put the VR headsets, and there's a scene in a cave or in a market, and you see some of the spaceships outside. You see the Razor Crest, and they all go together in VR, and they can fly around the scene, and they can see, okay, now these things are close to what I want to, and they can like plan ahead. They can plan exactly what's going to be shot, because they have a full pre-visualization of that, like minutes before they shoot even. So they can go there and they can, again, grab a camera and they can talk to each other, which is a fun thing because they're talking to each other about what they see in VR. So sometimes you see them like really far from each other in VR, but they are sitting next to each other, and then they yell, hey, come here, come to me. But then like, hey, I'm right here. So, but they just using our tools, they just click a button and they teleport themselves to the other person, and they can have the same point of view as the first one is looking at, which is fantastic workflow, and like it makes things go really fast, and it doesn't give any room for doubt. You are certain that's like, what are you showing them? What are you asking them to do? It's right there. Right. Exactly. It's clear and it's on the moment. Like there's no way to like, oh, I forgot what I asked. Like that was last week. No, you're asking right there, and they're seeing exactly what you see. So that's a big advantage of virtual production. And also, I believe that helped that show a lot, to be so concise, to be so on point, and to show it on screen exactly how each one of them had in mind, but they could put their minds together in VR because they were seeing the thing in front of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there's on Disney Plus, you can see a behind the scenes interview with all the directors actually on a round table, which I would recommend our viewers to check out.
Oh yes.
What about if our viewers want to find out a little bit more about your company, and do you want to give them a shout out and a URL?
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, if you wanted to know more about Magnopus, just go to magnopus.com and look us up. Magnopus is a very secretive company in regards to its content. We do that because we work with big other companies, and then we just wanted to make sure we deliver what they want to. We don't want it to be blabbermouthing about their work. So it's really like, you might have seen some of our work if you have been alive these days. I would say if you are involved in any kind of entertainment or any technology on your phone or on TV, you probably have seen our work, but might not be aware of that. But yeah, look us up. And there is also, from time to time, there are videos that I post, and a lot of people of the company, they post some of the bits of that they work. So just look on social media, #Magnopus, and you'll find some of the cool stuff that Magnopus has been doing recently.
And you've got your own blog, haven't you?
I do. You can find me on vimeo.com /Fernando Rabelo 1. So that's some of my work. But also you can find me on Facebook, Fernando Rabelo, or Instagram. I normally post a lot of stuff about my work on Instagram, which keeps people aware of what I'm doing and keep them close to me. So it's really good to see how excited people get about the work I do, which is, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, look, congratulations. You're really driving the innovation in the film business. And I know it's not just the film business you work in with everything you do, but look, it was great to have this exciting conversation, because it's something that I'm passionate about as well. And it combines, gaming, and gaming engine technology, which is just fast forwarding, innovation in many areas of the business, including the music industry with live shows, yeah. Right?
Yes, correct.
So there's all sorts of things we could talk about. But look, thanks for your time, Fernando, and you have a great day, and we'll check in later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. One thing, if you allow me to say.
Yeah.
Just want to say that a lot of people are afraid or scared of virtual production because it's going to take jobs away. It's going to let people who are traditional filmmakers away from this type of jobs, which is not true. That's one of the good things, because stages like The Lion King or The Mandalorian, they had like 200 plus people working all the time. In order to, they have groups, they have like lighting people, they have PAs, and all of this is still happening and is still merged to this new technology. This is just a new way of making movies, but it's still, the crews are staying there, which is really a really valid factor. And I have gotten to work with so many great people who are traditional filmmakers, and it taught me so much. Plus the people who are tech savvy and that like have taught me things that I wouldn't imagine learning coming from Brazil, in my small city. So I just want to make it like, leave it up there for people to join the trend, try to learn a bit more about what virtual production brings to you, and just be part of it. Don't just be a hater.
Great. #virtual production.
I like that.
We should champion, right?
Yes. Thank you very much, Matt. You have a great day.
Fernando.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.